This is really going to be a fun interview. I've really been looking forward to this. I have Ira Silverman, who is known as the Connector, a long career in public relations. And Ira, who I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, has been a great friend of this show, has sent me authors and sent me people who have been great guests. And Ira is, you see a lot, and I've been doing this now for a period of about 10 years, and you see a lot of things come and go. I've never met a man as prepared and as diligent and as responsive as Ira is in putting this together. He really has a respect for the process. But I said to Ira the other day, I said, Ira, I think you should be a guest because you've got some great stories to tell, and we're so pleased to have him tonight. Ira, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fine, thank you. You know, and I'm reading your bio before we came on, and it's going on for pages and pages and pages, and I'm saying, wow, Ira's done a lot, and he's been in a lot of places. The first thing that came to my mind, God forgive me, was when Howard Cosell would talk about Sonny Liston and the type of guy Sonny Liston was, and he'd say, Sonny Liston has a police record as long as your arm. Well, your resume, Ira, is as long as my arm. It's just, it's absolutely unbelievable. How did you get into public relations?
Hello?
Yeah, Ira, how'd you get into public relations?
That's actually a great question. I've gone to school at Syracuse and had studied newspaper journalism and political science. And I heard that to get into sports writing, you know, before you got to New York, you had to spend about 15 years out in other places around the country. And you start out in a small town, and you work your way up as most people did back then. And I wasn't interested in quite doing that at that point. So I decided my second choice was getting into government and, you know, working in city government. So I went and got a master's for that, got out. And when I got out, it was a crisis for the cities. Nobody had any money. And a job opened up writing for a public relations agency in New York that specialized in travel. So I cut my teeth there, but the nice thing was, Tony, that they had some wonderful accounts that involved sports. They had the Pinehurst Hotel and Country Club down in North Carolina, where the new, at that time, World Golf Hall of Fame was built. They hosted PGA tournaments on the number 2 course. We had Eastern Airlines as a client, and they sponsored 2 PGA tournaments. So I got to learn a little bit about sports PR, and the rest was just a progression of different things, new things, different things, and it's been great.
And in the course of your career, and I can only imagine, you know, for the comparatively brief time that I've been doing this, we've run into people whom, you know, we talk to, and, you know, like Bob Lazari and I will say we never thought in our lives that we'd ever have an interview with Mr. X or Miss Y. You've run into people and worked with them much longer than I. Who stood out in your mind as being really good and really making an impression on you?
This is going to surprise you, but the first name that always comes to my mind, and I'll tell you why, is John McEnroe. I was doing the PR for the Volvo Grand Prix Men's Pro Tennis Tour in the early 80s. And John had just finished, had gotten to the semifinals of Wimbledon. And I had the ability to ask the people who ran the tour to try to arrange for me to use the players to do interviews to promote themselves and also to promote the tour. And I figured, since I think he was 19 or 20 and he had just made, you know, news around the world, I would try to use John. And I called Red Smith, who was at the New York Times, and I asked asked him if he wanted to do the interview. He said yes, and so John came up to my office, Ray came up to the office, and I sat in on the interview. And there was two things that John said that stuck out of my mind because of how young he was. And the first thing he said was, let's just ask him, would he play Davis Cup that year? Now, you have to remember, this was 36 years ago. And he said, Mr. Smith, I will always play Davis Cup for the United States whenever I am asked. And he never failed to fall short of that. The other thing he said was, he said, my dad told me, when you say you're going to do something, do it. If you don't think you want to do it, don't say you'll do it. And in all the times that I've ever worked with John, if he said he was going to do something, he did it. And let me give you one example that really stood out in my mind. I was in the Thurman Munson dinner one year, and John was one of the honorees. And in the afternoon, I got a call from his dad's office, because his dad ran the schedule, and said, John's at home with his son. His son has 102.5 fever. And we need a favor. And I'm thinking, they're going to say, well, he can't make it. Can somebody else go in? He said, John would like to bring his son and have him sit next to him on the day. Is that okay? I mean, that's how dedicated he was to keeping his word. And that's my answer of who impressed me, who really impressed me for, 36 years of doing what he said he was going to do.
And it's interesting because he was always sort of like the the kid from Queens, the kid with the rough edges. They wanted you to believe the kid that didn't know how to behave, and this is something we never knew about him.
Well, if you knew his mom and dad, you would see where he got it.
Mm-hmm.
You would see immediately where he got it. That's how wonderful and they were with their kids and with him.
It's and I'm just thinking as we're saying that there are names, and you and I have conversed of world-known Hall of Fame baseball players, Hall of Fame football players, people who made their mark in other endeavors who are now in politics, who perhaps maybe weren't all that we thought they would be, and I'm sure you've run into enough of that too.
Well, I don't like to say anything negative
Sure.
about
and you need not mention names.
Things, at the time, closed doors. They were in limos, they were in trains, they were on planes,
Mm-hmm.
and they were shared with me, and I don't want to hurt anybody.
Of course not. And
I once asked John Mackey, the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame tight end for Baltimore,
mm-hmm.
about Super Bowl III and losing to the Jets. And I looked at him and I kind of winked, and he said, Ira, I'll tell you what happened. That we were so sure that we were going to win that game that at Saturday night's team dinner, we voted on the winner's share for everybody. And I just laughed and I said, well, that's being pretty overconfident. And, I don't know if anybody else knew that, but he shared that with me, and I thought that was kind of cool. A little bit of an insight on, that it's not only what happens on the field that can make a difference, it's a lot that to do what's in your head. I've learned that a lot.
No question. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. And I remember watching that game, and no one in the world ever suspected that type of an upset. And that of course, was Joe Namath's ticket to ride for his entire life.
It was. It absolutely was. And I remember exactly where I was, where I watched the game up in Syracuse, in my room, by myself, I didn't want anybody else talking. I just wanted to focus on the game, and it was great. It was great.
It's, yeah, and it's just one of those things. 2 weeks ago, we had on Robert Lipsyte for the New York Times, who was of a similar thing where he was told by the New York Times to go down and watch this young Cassius Clay just get destroyed by Sonny Liston in Miami. And, oh, by the way, here's a rent-a-car. When they take Clay to the hospital, you follow the ambulance. And it's just... I guess Howard Cosell was right when he said this is why they call it sport. That's amazing.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
And did you run into Mickey Mantle in your time? Only because I'm a Mantle fan.
Actually, Mickey hired me twice to do PR. One time was when he and Whitey Ford teamed up together to do the Mantle Ford fantasy baseball camps. And the other one was Mickey with his sons put together a kind of fun video, not so much of Mickey on the field, but interviews with his friends and teammates off the field. But my favorite Mickey story was I had booked him on the Today Show to talk about the video. And we got into a limousine early in the morning. They dropped us off at NBC. We went up. We were walking through the hallway, and the comedian Richard Lewis, I don't know, Retner Boyle,
yes,
listeners know, he always wears black, and he's kind of a dry sense of humor. And he said to me, "Can I get a picture with Mickey?" And I looked at Mickey and I said, "Is that okay?" He said, "Sure." I don't know if Mickey knew who he was or not, but he was real nice. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. And then Richard said, and then there was a photographer there from the Today Show who said, "I'll take the picture and I'll make up 2 copies." And Richard Lewis said, "I have an idea. I would send me both pictures. I'll sign both of them, send them back to you. You get them to Mickey. Mickey will sign one and keep it, and then you'll send mine back to me." It sounded rather convoluted and a little bit hard to do, but I figured it was worth doing. So we did it, and it took about 6 weeks, but I got it done. And this was years and years ago. Mickey was obviously still alive. And Bill Liederman put it up next to the bar, Mickey's copy of it, right away. And it totally skipped my mind that there was another copy of that photo somewhere out in California. So one night I'm watching Larry David's new show on Curb Your Enthusiasm, and the scene is Richard Lewis in bed, very, very ill. Larry is there to visit him, and it's supposed to be his bedroom at home. And the camera panned the room, and there was the picture up on the wall, on the set of the 2 of them that they had signed. And I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it happened that way, but that's my favorite Mickey Mantle story of mine personally.
And Mickey, to me, we showed an interview 2 weeks ago of Mickey and Sandy Koufax at the 1969 World Series. And I thought they were decent. They were heavily criticized in the day, as you remember. But Mickey, at least to me, kind of seemed to have 2 personalities. I never met the man. I was never that fortunate. But there was like the wild and crazy Mantle, or the angry Mantle. And then there was the very sweet country boy Mantle. I mean, did he show all those sides of himself with you?
No. I only worked with him after he retired.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I can say is I never thought that he realized what an icon he was and what he meant to almost all the men and some women of our generation, lots of generations. He was very humble. I didn't see any of that stuff that you're talking about, but that all may have been when he was playing, and you know, had different stress things on him than he did when he was retired.
Yeah, and
I'm sure he made a lot more money when he retired than when he was a player.
Yeah, he actually, well, I guess he really was the, if you could say this, he almost was like the father of sports memorabilia. You know, he started that whole thing of signing and appearing, and it wasn't really as big of a thing before he, and then like Duke Snider followed, and, you know, Willie Mays, and at least that's my recollection of it.
You know, I don't go back that far in terms of where the real explosion was in that industry. Mine was Barry Halper, who had this second best collection of baseball memorabilia outside the
I saw it in the museum. It was amazing.
And you know, that was the first time I ever heard or read or saw that memorabilia was an industry all to its own, that it was growing by leaps and bounds, and the more we went along, the more memorabilia there was going to be. So it was like an industry that was only going to grow. Yeah. It wasn't something that I got involved with until much later on.
I had a couple of pieces I dragged up from my youth, but I added a couple as I went, and I think like many of us. In our remaining time together, as you know, we're in a presidential race, and without necessarily mentioning names, faces, or places, as a PR professional, what is your sense of this whole thing in, you know, a minute or so?
I'll real quickly say that Donald Trump asked me to do a press conference on him in 1984 to announce that he and the USFL was suing the NFL for $2 or $3 billion. And I did the press conference for Trump, and as everybody out there can guess, he stiffed me on the second half of the bid. My take is that this is it's a windfall for the media. The windfall for everybody who works for the internet and stuff. It's just one soundbite after another, one craziness after another. And, you know, I think this thing is so crazy that it's going to go down near the end to, I don't know what's going to go down to. I really don't.
No, none of us do.
I just don't know.
Yeah, we talk about it constantly, and questions without answers tend to make you uncomfortable, as they might me. And Ira, in our closing time together, I want to spend a couple of minutes on what you're doing now, how you're doing it, the successes you've had, and where our friends and fans can reach you so that you may help them.
I'd love to do that, because mentoring people and helping young people coming out of college and those kind of things is stuff that I absolutely love to do. I'm working on some real great projects right now. You know, it's funny you mentioned memorabilia. I'm working on 2 or 3 projects right now with Steiner Sports. One actually has to do with their Beatle wall art collection in conjunction with the new Ron Howard movie. So we're going to be announcing this week a whole bunch of new products that are going to be out there. They're just gorgeous. I've seen them. And then we're also working on a program called Buy for a Cause for Steiner, where we're giving charities a chance to sign up with us for no money, no risk, and we're going to sell product and give them 20% of what people spend. So I'm real excited about that. I have a fabulous woman surgeon in Pittsburgh, who is also one of the top sports doctors in the country. Vonda Wright. I'm working with a whole bunch of other people. So, I try to have fun. I try to do good things. And the best way for people, the easiest thing is my email is Ira H. Silverman @gmail.com. You can go to Facebook and send me a friend request and a message. Either way would probably work.
Terrific. Well, listen, Ira, it's been great having you. Thanks for being here. We're sure to have you back on as things develop, and the stories, they will continue, I am sure. Take care, my friend. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Tony. You too.
Thank you. And that was Ira Silverman, and so pleased to have him. And we find out things about people who are running for president only on this show. We're going to be right back with some incredible retromercials and then great political speeches. We need them. Back in a moment.